So a little bit of a history about the plugins. At one point, there was a time in history, not that long ago actually, where the plugins were called RTAS plugins. And there were two types of plugins. The very first ones that were made were Audio Suite. Audio Suite plugins were not real-time plugins. They were plugins that were actually applied to the clips. So for example, if I wanted to add a like a EQ or a compressor or something, what I would do is I click on the clip, and I'd go up here to Audio Suite, and I'd go to my EQ, and I would listen to it by pressing on this little button down here. And as it played, I would go in here and pick a preset or whatever. Let's go to kick drum here. And I would just go through these. And it's hard to hear, I know, because it's like a really soft audio file. Okay, and I would take this and I would render it. And when I render it, now it makes a little bit of a change to the sound. And it's hard to hear or see, but there is a change in here. And what it would do is it also makes a new audio file in here. This one right here, this kick EQ, this one here. That's the one I just made here using my Audio Suite. And that's the original type of effects that you had in Pro Tools, were these Audio Suite effects. These Audio Suite effects are non-real-time. And when I'm talking about like at one point in time, I mean like back in like 1987, like 30 years ago or something like that, like 1990 had Audio Suite plugins. Then what they did was they made the RTAS plugins, and these RTAS plugins were made in the early 90s. This stood for Real-Time Audio Suite plugins. Real-Time Audio Suite plugins were great. They allowed you to do things in real time, so you could just like put it on the track like what you see today, and you could just go ahead and hit play, and you were good to go. You hit play, and you get the plugin, and you can make adjustments. Exactly what you saw me doing, what you've seen me doing most of the time when I'm working with plugins. It's exactly the same thing. The problem was RTAS, it stands for Real-Time Audio Suite. They only worked in real time. So they were real time, which is great, but they were only real time, which was not so great a little bit later on. The Audio Suite plugins applied only to audio clips. They create a new audio file when rendered, and they are non-real time. The problem with Audio Suite is you can't stack them very easily. You have to do it and render it, and then you have to do another one, and then another one, and then another one. So they're useful for certain things, but they're not great in general. It's really much better to be using plugins in real time. Now, the problem, as I said, with RTAS plugins, though, is that they were only real time. And what happened was programs like Logic and Ableton and FL Studio and those came along. And when you were bouncing stuff down, they allowed you to bounce down offline. So you could bounce offline, and it was much faster. And people were like, wow, I love bouncing offline. But Pro Tools could not bounce offline. When you had to bounce in Pro Tools, you had to bounce in real time. So Rory, Chino, what we were talking about yesterday, and you were talking about bouncing into another track. It used to be that you had to do that. There was another way to do it. You could bounce like without bouncing into another track, but most of the time people recommend that you bounce into the track itself. There was a number of reasons for that, just to do with computers like crashing and stuff like that. And if you had a long file to bounce down, you didn't have to start all the way over at the beginning. But nowadays, because of AAX, AAX stands for Avid Audio Extension, and these work offline and in real time. So finally, Pro Tools kind of came into the modern era, and they're like, okay, cool, now we don't have to work only offline, we can work offline and in real time. So AAX DSP is for Pro Tools Ultimate. This is for the same as the old HD systems. And then AAX Native is for Pro Tools on your computer. Most of the time, you're going to be working with Pro Tools AAX Native plugins. They're exactly the same as the DSP plugins. They sound the same. The difference is that with the DSP plugins, you can work on a system that has more DSP chips. So essentially, you can have more plugins being thrown at your session. So that's the brief history of this stuff. When you're dealing with plugins, you do have to think about your track compatibility with mono versus stereo. Mono plugins can only be mono or mono/stereo. So for example, if I go over here to my kick drum and I put a plugin on here, see it says plugins? Well, these are all for the most part mono, but some of them will say mono/stereo. And what that does is, let's go down here and check it out. See my track is in mono right now. I just got 1 meter here. This is for my gain reduction for my compressor. And if I go here and I put a mono/stereo plugin on here, let's use a modulation plugin. So this chorus, let's use Crystallizer. Okay, so Crystallizer here, it's a really weird plugin. It's easy to hear. So if I put the mono version on here, here, let's listen to this. I'm gonna put it in like that. We're gonna go ahead and loop this. I'm gonna loop a couple bars here. There we go. So I hit play. You hear all these like weird, right? All these weird sounds that are in here. Okay, get out of here. Okay, so all these weird sounds now, but it's all still mono, right? So if I go in here and I change my plugin to be from mono to stereo, here, plugin, modulation, crystallizer, mono, stereo. Now what's going to happen is it's going to change it, so it's going to be mono and stereo. At least it should be, because it's not. This one actually might be a bad. Actually, that might be a bad example because that one might not have stereo in it. I thought it would change it to stereo. Here, okay, so let's use a delay. Delay is easy to hear. All right, let's use the. Let's use Echo Boy. Okay, here we go. Echo Boy is a great one from Sound Toys again. Today's like a Sound Toys commercial. So let's go over here to classics. Here we go, Telray, boom. So there we go, you can hear that, Echoplex. Right, it's a mono, everything is just mono, right? But if I go in here and I put this in mono/stereo, watch what happens. I go to mono/stereo. Now, first of all, the first thing we notice is that now it gives us 2 pan knobs here and 2 meters here because it's left and right. And in here it changes. So now we have a couple things down here, ping pong and all this stuff. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to change this to dual echo. And now we can hear. There we go. Hear how it's in stereo? So my kick drum is still in mono, but the effect is now in stereo. And so that's a big thing there because we can have going from mono to stereo. But when we have a stereo track to start with, if we go over here to stereo, we have different options. And those options are multi-channel versus multi-mono. And these are all the same. And you're not going to get anything that say mono/stereo. So for example, if I go down here to delay, the same delay I'm using here, Echo Boy, does not have a mono/stereo option. It's just not a thing. So on mono tracks, you're going to get mono/stereo, mono/mono/stereo, that actually changes the signal to a stereo signal. And on stereo tracks, you're going to have multi-channel versus multi-mono, and that's right here, multi-channel versus multi-mono. Okay, multi-channel plugins and multi-mono plugins. And the difference here is multi-channel is true stereo, one set of control changes everything, and multi-mono means that the left and the right are actually separated out. So it's a little bit different there, and we're going to dive deeper into that in just a second. But I just want to go back here and talk about the mono plugins here for a second. And I just want to also say a little aside. This is very Pro Tools specific. In Logic and Ableton Live, there's no difference. You don't have any options between your plugins or your tracks or anything like that. It's just, everything is just your plugins, and everything is just kind of stereo by default. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for this stuff in Ableton Live or Logic, you're going to be disappointed. Wow, it is coming down out there. It's a winter wonderland. And cars are driving around, so it's a slushy, disgusting winter wonderland. I'm looking at 6th Ave right now. It's pretty gross. Although the park is nice. All right, so let me go ahead and get rid of this Echo Boy here. And let's take a look at the notes. So if we're on a mono track, here's how this works. Mono track, the audio file is mono. And if I have a delay that's in mono, the sound that we hear is going to be mono. But if I have a delay that's mono/stereo, the sound that we hear is going to be stereo. And what this does is that everything after that plugin, the mono/stereo plugin, everything after it will be stereo and everything before it will be mono. Oh, what's up, Michael? How you doing? So everything before and after will be mono/stereo. Michael Reedy, there you are. Cool. And so that's how that kind of works there. So if I have a couple plugins before it, those are all going to stay mono. And if I have a couple plugins after it, those are all going to be stereo. Now, we don't really see any difference in anything here. It doesn't have like a little S or a little M up here, but you just have to know that that's how that works. So if I go in here and I put a stereo plugin in here, like my delay, Echo Boy mono/stereo, everything on this side of the Echo Boy is going to be a stereo effect. Check this out, multi-channel, right? See? But everything on this side is going to be a mono. See, it just says plugin because everything is just mono. And see, it still says mono/stereo. So we can't actually put any mono plugins on this side of the effect. We have to do everything stereo at that point. So just a little something to kind of keep in mind there when you're putting your effects onto tracks. I don't expect this to really mean a whole lot to you right now, but it will start to mean something to you the more you do this stuff. All right, now let's go to our stereo plugin. So we have multi-channel versus multi-mono. So if I go down here and I've got multi-channel, I've got a multi-channel plugin. Let's solo our overheads out. Okay, there's our overheads. Let's go ahead and use an EQ on here. And I have two choices. I have multi-channel versus multi-mono. And I'm going to go ahead and put the same EQ on both settings. So I've got multi-channel here. And this one here is going to be multi-mono. And the only difference is going to be in the top part of the EQ. So if I go here and I look at these, are the insert sections linked or do they function as two different chains? Do you mean A through E and F through J? Like if I go in here and I look at F, I go in here, I put inserts F through J like this. Is that what you're talking about, Carl? Yeah. No, it's all serial. So it just goes straight from here to here. It's just you have 10 plugins you can put on each channel, and it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. If you wanted to make a parallel chain, it's super, super easy. What you do is you just make a new track. I'll just show you real quick. Aux track here. And you just go ahead and send it over to the aux track. So I'm going to set my bus here to 5 and 6. And then I'm just going to go 5 and 6 over here. Actually, I'm sorry. This is not going to be a parallel chain. This is still going to be serial because even if I set this to pre. So you'd have to split it with two different aux channels, actually, which is not super hard to do. But let me come back and talk about that in just a second. Let's back up. Let's not talk about that right now, because I actually have some descriptions about that in the notes. But A through E and F through J are serial. Okay, so what I'm going to look at here, though, is just right here. This one on top is my multi-channel, and this one on the bottom is my multi-mono. And the only difference is just this part right here. See that? This has my multi-mono means that I can actually, if I turn off the master link button, I can actually now control my left side from my right side separately. So if I go down here and I drag around this stuff here, I'm on my left side here, I drag this around and I go to my right side, now I can set different settings for my left and my right and I can see them. And if I listen to them, you can hear, if you're especially on headphones, you can hear a big difference. If I bypass, that's what it sounds like by itself. And I put the EQ back on, can hear a big difference. You can hear more stuff going on the left-hand side. And that's the only difference really between for the mono, multi-mono, and multi-channel. With multi-channel, everything is just controlling both sides, left and right. And there's no way to separate them out. But if I go to multi-mono, I can actually have a difference here between my left and my right sides. And so if you wanted to do any kind of thing like that, you can easily set that up there. It's not such a big deal there. So again, it really that kind of like, you kind of have to have some foresight. How do you want to EQ it? What do you want to do with it? And so if you wanted to like do something different on your left side and your right side, then you would set a multi-mono plugin. If you don't care about that, if you just want to do an EQ on it, which is normally the case, then you would set multi-channel. All right, and that's the difference there. And like I said, in Logic or Ableton Live, you don't have the option there. Some plugins do allow you to separate the left from the right, like the EQ that comes with Ableton Live allows you to separate the left from the right, and it lets you separate the mid from the side. And then Rondell says, I guess multi-mono is the same as dual mono. Exactly correct. It's the same thing as dual mono. Mm-hmm. Where do you see dual mono, Rondell? I'm curious which DAW. Because with my experience, I haven't really seen a DAW that says dual mono, but that's exactly what it is. Oh, Logic has dual mono. Oh, that's new. Interesting. Okay. They I had never. I mean, I guess it's new. I don't know. Maybe it's not new. Maybe I just never saw it. But I don't ever remember them having dual mono. Cool. All right. So I guess Logic has stepped up their plugin game to kind of more represent Pro Tools now, or they always have, and I just never noticed it for some reason. But I've used Logic a lot, and I've never noticed dual mono. But maybe that doesn't mean I didn't make a mistake. All right, so that's pretty much the difference there with that. And linked is just one set of controls, changes both left and right. Basically, it's the same as multi-channel, and then unlinked is left and right can be controlled independently. All right, so just a couple things. Stereo channels. Most Pro Tools stereo plugins are both multi-channel and multi-mono, with a couple of exceptions. Multi-mono only plugins, a really big one that you'll want to use that's multi-mono only is Trim, and some multi-mono, multi-channel plugins are some reverbs that don't have any multi-mono support. It's not really a big deal. Just be aware that if you don't see the plugin in your list, it may be multi-channel only or multi-mono only. Don't panic, okay? So just keep in mind with the Trim plugin here, remember, even though it's on a stereo track here, it's not going to show up under multi-channel. So we go over here and we go to Other, and Trim is not in here. But if I go to multi-mono, now Other, Trim is right here. So it is a plugin that it only shows up in your multi-mono plugins. It's not in your multi-channel plugins. So just be aware of that. If you don't see it, just check multi-mono versus multi-channel. All right. All right, so let's just take a look at our plugin controls here. Every plugin control for Pro Tools is the same as Logic. Logic has all the plugin controls are the same, and Ableton Live has like a feature like this as well. They all kind of have it. So if I open up any of my plugins, whether it's a first-party plugin or a third-party plugin, so this one here comes with Pro Tools, this one here does not come with Pro Tools, and we look at the tops of each one, they are exactly the same. And let's just put these right on top of each other so we can see that they are exactly the same. And what we have here is a couple things that I've mapped them out for you in the notes. So in the notes, it shows you what each one is going, and what we're going to do right now is go through all of these. I'm not going to be referring back to the notes back and forth. I'm just going to go through them all, but if they are here written down in your notes for you, so you can check them out. But what we've got here is this here shows us which track we are on. So, and if you mouse over it, you can just see what it says too. The track selector. Do not chew on my shirt. So the track selector, this one here shows us we are on the overhead track, EA overhead track. This one's on the kick track. If I want to change it, I can change it. So we're looking at the snare track and all this stuff. And you can see there's actually no plugins on those. So if I go back to my kick track, there we go, our plugin. This one here, B and C, tells us what actual insert slot we are in, A through J. Same thing with this one here. And you can see here's a list of all of them. So if I want to check out my compressor, I could check that out, or my EQ or whatever. I can change what I'm actually looking at here. And finally, down here, this actually changes the plugin itself. So these two here are navigation. This one here is actually going to select and change things. And actually, let me take the headphones off. I don't really need them right now. So what this does is that, sorry, it's just, they're hurting my ears. So what this does is that this one here, let's say I'm using my Echo Boy, but I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to use the Echo Boy in this. Let's use a reverb. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to find my little plate. And there we go. Now I can look at my plate, or I could find a totally different one. I can just go in here and say, let's use Physian. So there's my Physian from Eventide. There we go. Boom. Okay, so I have that there. Oh, I forgot that I bought this. I need to start messing around with that. I completely forgot that I got this one. This is a really cool plugin, actually. And I had completely forgotten that I had bought it. It was on sale at some point. I just like, I should buy that. And then I forgot. I think I got distracted with everything. Anyway, so we can see here, there we go, like that. That's fun to realize you have a new toy. It's like finding money that you didn't know you had. All right, so we got this here, and next let's move over to our presets. And again, it's the same on both sides, up and down here. You can see this one here does have this key input, and the key input is because it's a compressor. And so if we have like side chaining and stuff like that, we can use the key input for that. And we'll talk about that another time. But here's our presets, and some plugins have presets in here and some don't. This one has a couple of presets. Let's go ahead and change this to a plugin that actually has more presets. I'm going to go in here to the vintage filter, and this one is made by Air, but it actually, whoops, why did that disappear? Where'd it go? There you are. It's made by Air, but it's actually Air for a long time just made stuff specifically for Pro Tools and Avid, and so there's a lot of presets in here. And we can go through those presets by clicking on these little arrow keys here, and it will change the settings there. Or we can go on this and it will let us change through, and we can set this to actually scroll through our presets one every second, which is kind of a fun little thing. I don't really use it that much, but it's a neat little thing there. And if I make changes, see how the name just italicized, and I can click compare and actually go back and forth between these changes that I've made. So I can go in here and I can make some changes, and I can compare it back to the original settings. So that's pretty cool there. And if I wanted to save my settings, so let's go ahead and move this around, move this and move that, and change this and change this and change this. And I wanted to save that, I can go up here and I can save it, save my settings, save as, copy settings, import, all these different things that we can do here. So I can go save settings as, and I can say vintage filter, and I'll call this one, let's see, what's numbers we go to? 15. So let's put this at 15, 16, and then Tony Bubbles. There we go. And now it just puts it in here in the list. Okay, so you can save your settings. It's great, yeah, being able to save your settings. I do want to point out that every DAW can save settings and pull up settings and stuff like that. So this is not specific to Pro Tools, but it actually is pretty easy to do in Pro Tools. It's much easier to do it in Pro Tools, I think, than it is to do it in Ableton Live. But for this one down here, this Eventide that I forgot that I had, this one here doesn't have any settings up here. And the reason why it doesn't have any settings is because it is a third-party plugin. And third-party plugins usually have their own way to load their presets. The reason why they do that with third-party plugins is because if they're going from all these different DAWs like Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton Live, they want to have an easy way to set up their presets and stuff like that. So third-party plugins have their own way to recall presets, and you have to know what that is. Usually it's pretty obvious, but sometimes it's not super obvious. There are a few plugins that I've run into where it's like, wait, where is it? Oh, I have to find, okay, there it is, cool. So for this one here, for example, it's right here. And I can go in here and I can load this up, and I can say, okay, cool, let's see your drums and percussion, beats, guitars. So let's take a listen to what this actually sounds like, because I've forgotten. It's been so long since I've messed with this that I actually forgot what it sounds like. I'm going to go over here and put this on to here. Boop. There we go. Let's listen. That's funny. All right, let's go ahead and scroll through. Oh wait, hold on, turn this off. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's turn this one off as well. we're using a multi-mono plugin. Let's use a multi-channel plugin. And what are you listed under, Physion? Not under delay, probably dynamics, right? Physion, there you are. There we are, cool. All right, so let's just take a listen to this. I'm kind of curious what this thing sounds like since we're here. Interesting. Okay, so it's giving us this like delay. Okay, so let's go through. Instruments, beats. Drums and percussion. There we go. Wow, it just separated out that reverb. That's amazing. Wow, cool. Let me just loop this. Here, I'm gonna loop. Oh, I am looping. Okay, cool. Wow. Let's loop this here. And this is what I usually do. I must have been just super busy when I got this. Or maybe I was like at a nightclub and I got an email and it was like, you should get this. And I checked it out on my phone and I bought it and then I forgot to download it. I mean, I forgot to listen to it later. Although I have downloaded it, so I don't know I don't have any excuse except I'm just an idiot. Because this is actually really dope. Eventide stuff is amazing. Yeah. You can hear how much it's changing this around. Let's hear what it sounds like with something else. Let's go to Effects, Structural Split. It's always cool to kind of listen to things. Oh, that's nice. Oh, Head Snack. Oh, yeah. He's a friend of mine. It was actually probably because of him that I got this. All right, Dempsey. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. Nice. As you can hear, there's a lot of cool things going on with that. It's definitely not a type of plugin that you would buy first, but after you've already got all your utility plugins and stuff, this looks like a really, really dope plugin. I'm glad that I poked it and remembered that I have it. I need to go through and make sure I didn't do that with some other plugins too. That's kind of embarrassing. Oh well. Anyway. All right. So there we go. Oh wait, I forgot to finish talking about the stuff that I need to talk about. Let's go back into Physion and take a look at this. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about here is if it's a third-party plugin, it's got some other way to save your presets. You could save them in Pro Tools, but I would recommend using the save feature of the effect. That way you can use it with any DAW that you have. Now, if we want to do automation stuff with plugins, you're going to click on these buttons right here. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow when we dive deep into automation. And then here we've got the bypass for the plugins here. So if I want to bypass it, all right, there we go. Bypassed, and there we go. And here it does tell you if it's a native plugin or a DSP plugin. The DSP plugins would be used on external hardware, DSP chips. They would sound exactly the same. It's just the way they work is just a little bit different. So awesome. All right. So that's listing all this stuff here. We just kind of talked about it here. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about automation for plugin parameters tomorrow. So all this stuff we're going to skip for now. And then the Audio Suite plugins, we already talked about this, but the way we do it here is you just select the clip that you want to apply the effect to. Just kind of a little review here. Select the clip, select the Audio Suite plugin. So for example, if I want to use this one that we just were messing with, the Physion. Here we go. Boom. On my kick drum here, let's use it on the overheads. There, down here. Use it on these. And I just want to do it to this one part here, so I'll just cut that with Command E, put it right there, boom. Now use Physion. And down here in the bottom there's a little speaker thing. I push that, and it's gonna let me play it. While it's playing, just Play the preview as you make changes to the settings. So that's that little speaker button down there. Go through here and go through the presets. Let's use something different. Let's go to my head snack stuff. All right, let's say we want to use that one. So I'm going to go ahead and render it. And it's going to go ahead and stop everything. And now for that one little part, watch this. If I solo this out, I hit play. Why are you not there? Come on. Fizzion. Not sure why that didn't just put it in there. Okay, there we go. Oh, probably. I know why. But there you go. You can hear it. I'm going to guess the reason why I didn't just drop it in there is because I have my groups. All my groups are turned off, though. I don't know why I didn't just drop it in there. It's really weird. But there it is. It's over here on the right-hand side. And you can just grab this little clip here and just drag it. It should be the same exact clip. So that's what Elastic Audio does for us. I have never experienced it not putting it straight into my session like this, so I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, that's annoying, but it is what it is. All right, so I would recommend that you create a duplicate playlist before you do any of things with Audio Suite, just in case you kind of mess things up. You can always go back to it and unmess it. All right. Some useful Audio Suite plugins. The ones you want to use the most is the main one you want to use Audio Suite for is reverse. If you want to flip things backwards, that's really, really useful. Here, let's go ahead and make a new. I'm going to duplicate this playlist here. Reverse. And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to my Audio Suite, go to Other, go to Reverse. And to be honest, what I do is if I'm reversing a lot of files, and this literally just flips it backwards, I don't need to listen to it. I'm just going to render it. Yeah, it didn't just throw it in there. Why is it not just throwing it in there? Anyway, here's what it sounds like. Right, if we put it in line with everything else. It is reversed. Now, the reason, let me see here. So you really want, for reverse, you have to use Audio Suite. There's no other way to reverse your samples in Pro Tools. So you have to pull it up. And so when I'm doing a lot of like reversing, I'll just leave the Audio Suite plugin up here and just like go through and reverse all the stuff I need to reverse. Another one is gain, but these days I would use clip gain instead of the Audio Suite gain. Some old school producers will use Audio Suite gain, but clip gain is this one right here, and I can turn the clips up and down. This is actually adjusting the gain of the clip. This is a really cool thing that Pro Tools added in with Pro Tools 10. That was about 10 years ago or so. It was a while ago. But it's a really cool feature. And then signal generator is if you want to create a steady tone. That's actually really useful. Like, for example, this kick drum, if I wanted to add a low frequency into this kick drum here, like if I wanted to get some more, here, let's just loop. There we go. If I wanted to get some more low end coming out of this kick drum, what I would do is I would make an audio track here, and I would just call this one, let's do it at 60 hertz. And I would just highlight all that I wanted to do it to. So like the whole thing, let's just do it to the whole thing here. Just boop like that, make it easy. Okay, and yeah, let's do that. Okay, and I would go into Audio Suite and I would go to, where is it? It's under a signal generator. I don't remember, instrument? Other, yeah, there we go, signal generator. And there's my signal generator. And now we're going to put this at 60 hertz and put it at, well, we could just put it at -10. Let's put it at 0, whatever, doesn't really matter. Sine wave, that's what we want. Hit render, boom. And for some reason, it's not, that's so annoying. That's like really annoying that it's not just like putting it in. So there it is. And I'm going to turn it way down because we don't want to blast us out. And probably -20 hertz is good enough. But if we listen to it, it's just literally tone, right? But let's take that tone and have it set so the kick drum turns that tone on and off. So what I would do is I go in here to my gate, my expander gate, put that in, and we're going to side chain that to the kick drum. So I'm just going to go for my kick drum here and bus whatever. Let's do bus 21, and in here we'll use bus 21. Boom. I'm going to put this up to 0, turn it to pre, so it's always going to be on, and get rid of this over here. Now, turn my sidechain on. There we go. I can tailor this. There we go. Adjust my attack a little bit. There we go. Cool. There we go. Cool. You can hear that now if we put that together with the kick drum. Now we get a nice little thumpy thump on that kick drum there. There we go, and you can set that to any tone you want. So that's a really quick little, cool little thing. And let's see here. Oh, and then normalize. Normalize, people talk about normalize, but don't use normalize except for when you're doing drum samples. Normalize analyzes the audio and finds that the loudest peak is, you know, something, and then it turns up the entire audio by whatever it is to bring that to 0. So that one peak will reach 0. Don't normalize. I hear people talk about normalize and that they should use normalize. Just don't use normalize unless you are making drum samples. That's really the only reason to use normalize. So just so you know about that. Wow, it's still coming down a lot. It's good decision not to go into school today. Yo, anybody who doesn't live in the city would be pretty trapped, I think, at 2 o'clock. So anyway, what else we got? Anything else? I think we're done. I think that's it. Yeah. Sweetness. Let me stop that recording.